Kellylee Evans always knew she wanted to be a musician, but like many, a desire to please her parents postponed those dreams. She was, as she says in this interview, doing everything she could to avoid getting out into the real world while earning several degrees plus working on her master's at Carleton University in Ottawa. It wasn't until the death of her mother that she knew she had to jump in with both feet, and the music world is certainly glad that she did. In 2004, she placed second at the Thelonious Monk International Jazz Vocals Competition. Spurred on by this, her first album was nominated for a Juno. In this interview, we discuss her Juno winning second album, her love affair with the city of Paris, the events of 2013 that nearly ended her career, and her return to performing. An immensely talented musical artist, Kellylee personifies resilience and dedication to her craft, and we had a fantastic chat. Let's listen in.
Welcome to the Stueytunes Show. These are insights and commentary on the music and musicians that shape our lives. And now, let's go back to class with your host, Tony Stewart.
Good morning, Kellylee, and thanks for joining me today.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, how are you doing?
Actually pretty good. Today's a good day. Today's
Oh.
I go day by day, you know. Sometimes it's hour by hour. So,
Well, we'll be talking about that later in today's episode, but I thought I'd like to start throughout your career. There's been a real connection with France, with Paris, and that seems to be something that just keeps coming up. Your relationship with the city of Paris, and I find that really interesting. Could you talk about that? About how Paris and France have become such an important part of your career?
yeah, and I'm trying to think like what year it was. I think it was 2010. I received a MySpace message from a label MySpace from a
MySpace,
label
yeah.
in France. What? MySpace before, I think it was before Facebook. Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So MySpace message asking if I wanted to come and make a CD. And I had been like just burnt out from making my own independent CD, and this label, I don't they say they found me because I was part of the Thelonious Monk competition. Now it's called the Herbie Hancock competition, but it was a competition for jazz musicians. And they found out they looked at the list of winners, and they found me there, and they invited me to come and make this CD in France. And I went, and it was my first time going ever. I loved it. I had always dreamt of going to France. I dreamt of like speaking French, just it was just kind of like this dream, but never did it. And I thought it was gonna just be kind of like a one-off. Like I would go make the CD. He was gonna like release it, he said, in France. And I was at the same time I had made my own CD. And I kind of felt like that was gonna be it. But that album, which was a tribute to Nina Simone, came out, and it people just loved it. And it created this thing where, like, I think my first concert in Paris, I think maybe I had 30 people. And I had been told before I went, I was told before when it was booked that it was going to be two separate concerts. So like we had enough music for like 75 minutes, and it was I think it was three of us, maybe four. So like a very small band. And we were like, okay, this will be fine, 75 minutes. And then before I went out on stage, they were like, oh, okay, it's just going to be the same audience, and they're going to have an intermission. So you need like double that. And I was just like, wow, okay, everyone's going to take a solo.
That's right.
and, and, we,
15 choruses each.
and we're going to play. And whatever song they liked the best in the first set, we're playing again in the second set. Oh my God. It was too funny. So to go from, 30 people, like, period, to, I don't even know. Like, I'm trying to think like what my biggest crowd in Paris would have been. I don't know. We were getting up to like the 700-800s. Like there would be a time when we were able to do like 4 nights a week, 2 shows a night, um, change the audience. So again, 70, 90-minute shows twice to like a large audience of like 100 and something people. Do you know what I mean? Like in a
Yeah.
little club. So it was just like, okay, something's changed, you know? And I don't know, it's been, I was there every month, like every month for 2 years. Like I go for a week, 2 weeks sometimes. It felt like was always there. And I was actually planning to move there and live there just before I put out my last album, which was in 2015, in October 15. Like that was my plan. Because I loved it. I loved the fact that you could make music any day of the week and people would come. You know,
Hmm.
like there was this feeling that music was so appreciated and musicians were just appreciated, and they couldn't get enough music. And even like it's just like a different mentality. So many of the kids are taking music lessons and have this passion for the history of music. When you talk to them, like they're educating me on music. I'm just like, oh, okay. Like I didn't know that, you know? And the music level of musicianship is very high, you know? I think they have a lot of pressure to be good, but there's a love of the music as well. And so I think when that happens at such a young age and the kids are so like, even there's like Wednesday afternoon, most kids are out taking dance lessons or music, like school's finished and you go
Hmm.
and you take lessons, you know, in culture, or like you go to museums. And so you'll see like these big groups of students, like just filling museums and learning all about art and culture. So it makes it so easy for these festivals to operate and attract people, and then for them to bring musicians from all over the world to entertain them. So I was like, wow. And then like Europe is like very similar in their love for music as well, so you can travel all over. It's just such a different feeling from what we do here, which is like I feel like we appreciate music mostly in the summertime.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah, so that's the story of France. I just like they they welcomed me, and I really appreciated it, and I fell for them, you know, for yeah.
And the list of jazz musicians who've fallen in love with Paris, I just watched a documentary on Sidney Bechet, and I mean, spent
What's it
this whole,
called? Because I'm
I,
in documentary mode right now.
oh, you know what? I can't remember the title, but I'll find it and I'll message you.
Send me
But
the link.
yeah, all these jazz musicians who absolutely fell in love with that city. I mean, it welcomed them with open arms, eh? And
Yeah, it really does. I don't know. Yeah, it's just it's a nice feeling, you know. It's a really nice feeling. And then also like when you think about the lives of the musicians that live there, like there's a lot more support for them. I mean, like what's happening right now with COVID, and you know, if you're earning like under a thousand and under, you know, you can receive like the CERB, and it's so helpful
hmm.
in those lean months. And can you imagine like there's a system set up for them where the money, like they work over a 10-month period, and then I'm not quite sure how the calculation is, but they receive like if you've worked over a 10-month period, you can receive a monthly amount, you know, for the next year.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, so you like people have homes like
Yeah.
like
Go
like
figure,
yeah, and you know, and apartments in Paris,
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
yeah, so it's just kind of like you look at that and you're like, wow, like that's what it looks like when like the people appreciate music, and the the government that they elect, you know, reflects that as well. And it's just like, you know, not to say that like some of those things aren't changing for them, you know, but like that's been the history of it. And so I feel like it was something really interesting. But I'm I'm home now, and I'm fine. You know what I mean? I'm
Hmm.
actually like I got sick and I had to stay home, and it was like I love my country. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
do. I really do. It's crazy. Like I was like, that is pretty awesome, and that's a nice goal for us to like get to that level of like love for musicians and for music and for the arts. But Canadians are awesome.
Well, and I think a lot of us are appreciating living in Canada right now,
I love my country.
Yeah.
I love my country.
Same
Canadians
here,
are
same
awesome.
here.
Yeah.
Uh, So I always love finding out, what lit that initial spark for people. As a musician myself, I know what I still remember the moment that I said, "Man, I got to do something in that field." Like and for you, um, you were studying law at Carleton University way back when, and what happened? Like, what lit the spark for you that made you decide, you know what, I'm changing directions? And I was interested. I don't know if you've ever met Mike McCormick from the Arrogant Worms, but
I
I
don't
interviewed.
think so.
Anyway, great guy, but he did a master's in metallurgical engineering and has not worked as a metallurgical engineer a day in his life. It's so
Yeah.
fascinating. So tell me what happened.
Well, I always wanted to do music. Like that was just like it was never a question of whether I wanted to do it. It was more like did I have the fearlessness to do it, you know?
Hmm.
Um and I have to be honest, it wasn't really until my mom passed away that I felt like, okay, well, no one's gonna stop me. you know? So like yeah, I was just like there was a there was just a moment where I kind of like just woke up out of the fear of disappointing her and disappointing like everybody around me. I just I just kind of had this feeling like if she, because like she wanted me to be stable, she knew that, or her view was that the path to success for a young person of color in any like society is like for her was economic stability and more just she when she was growing up she felt like oh I'm can be like a bus driver. She said she had three choices: a bus driver, uh what was the second one, a postmistress, or a nurse. Those were her
Wow.
three paths when she went to England from Jamaica. And so she became a nurse, and she just didn't want me to not be successful, And so for her, like that idea of like being a musician like does not seem stable. And she was right. She's right, But I was so I was like just very fearful as well. And so I just kind of followed along. I did everything that my parents thought would be like a smart thing to do. So I just like I tried to be the best I could in school, valedictorian, every club, high marks. And I was in school, I had no clue what I wanted to do. Like I was just gonna stay there forever. you know,
Yeah.
like I was doing my master's in legal philosophy. Like what was that gonna lead to? Maybe I'd be a professor,
Hmm.
like there was no, it wasn't even to be a lawyer. It was like it wasn't even a practical goal like that. It was just like, let me hide out here at Carleton
Yeah.
and just keep taking more degrees. I had two undergraduate degrees and I was working on my master's. Like that's how much I did not want to leave the security and comfort of go to school, get grades, everybody's happy. Like that's just like if you're doing that since kindergarten, like why would you change?
Hmm.
Right? And then she died. And it was just like, wow, life is short. It's so short. Like she was 50. I don't know. I'm trying to think how old she was. She was in her 50s when she died of cancer. That's not that's not that old.
No, that's very young. Yeah.
It's very young, And so to see that, and I was an only child, like on one level, I'm kind of like, wow, you don't really, you're not guaranteed anything, like for time, you know? And on the other level, I was like, well, if she's gone and there is a heaven, she's looking down and she can see I'm not well. Like I don't feel good about, I had ulcers, I wasn't feeling well, I'm stressed out and unhappy. She could see that and say, like, that's not a way to live.
Hmm.
And if she's gone and there's no heaven, she can't see me anyways. so so I'm all right. And that, I swear to you, that was the moment. That was the moment when I decided to drop out of my master's and like try something else, like try to see like what life looked like when you're not following like what everybody else is telling you to do. And I'm happy. I wish I'd had like some financial training, like
Hmm.
that. I think But I feel like even then I probably would have still screwed it up. But was making it up as I went along. Like I didn't have anybody ahead of me like with any experience. Like if I'd chosen to be a nurse, or my dad was a scientist, like I could have picked like one of those and like they could say, do this, do that, do that. But I didn't have like a template to follow for music, you know? So I kind of made it up as I went along, and I made some crummy financial choices, but
As have we all, you know.
yeah.
Guilty as charged as well. So
Yeah, but you were smart. Like you became a teacher, you know? Like you got a pension, dude. You
yeah,
got a
that's true.
pension.
Yeah,
You
that's
got a
true. That's true.
pension.
You know,
That's so awesome.
you and
I'm
I
so
have
proud
had
of
that
you.
chat that you know, I ended up in this career kind of you know, it wasn't my original plan,
I
but then
know.
it turns out to be, you know, the best thing you ever did. And
I know. Your story's awesome. I should interview you for
oh.
this show.
And I have to tell you, speaking of teaching, when you decided to you know, put your girls in my music program, I was really touched by that, because I mean, you could have put them anywhere in Ottawa or whatever, and
You did that. Let me just say something. You did that. You did that. So
oh well, thank you.
my kids had like were homeschooled. I said, you know, if you want to go to school, like you just let me know. And that day I came to your class to teach. My daughter came and she fell in love with your class. And she's like, I want to be in his class. And that's what inspired my kids to come to school. So
Oh
you did that.
well, thank you.
Yeah,
But
seriously.
anyway, that was always pretty awesome. You know, that'll be one of my you know, fond memories of a pretty good career. So
Well, it's one of my like honestly, like my kids are interested, have a love for music because of you. And people always say like, oh, like they must have wanted to be musicians because their mom wasn't. No, you know, like what you did in that class of like letting kids come in and play all the different instruments and having that be an open space. Um, I haven't really seen it be duplicated in the same way. I've met a lot of lovely music teachers, but there's not that same open atmosphere for in a lot of music schools. There is in some, but not in a lot. You know, like you let kids like some kids take instruments home and try things and like you know be inspired to try. And so it was like these kids fell in love, and you know they went on to also get a lot of love in that program orchestra.
hmm
There's a and the lady that runs that program is very much like you. I have to say something though, the music teachers that I'm meeting, there's a I I don't know, there's something special. Like there's something special about music teachers. I don't know if it's because maybe you guys see the kids throughout the whole career. Like I'm not sure what it is, but there's something special about music teachers.
yeah, we do get to see them for a long time. You know, we they come to us as little kids and
Yeah.
they leave as adults basically. So that's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
there's
Yeah.
a different relationship. Like I hear my kids talk to their music teachers and it's like, and I see the music teachers walk through the hallways and like call out kids and like, hey, how are you doing? And, you know, and there's a different relationship like than what I see with other teachers. So, yeah, you got something special going on there. You touched a lot of lives.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. But so we are going to take a quick break. We're going to go to the music history moment. I guess that's the teacher in me, but I've got to put that in every episode. So we're going to take a little break, do the music history moment, and I'll be right back with Kellylee Evans. On July 27th, 1976, Tina Turner filed for divorce from her abusive husband, Ike Turner. Tina, whose real name was Anna Mae Bullock, had begun a recording career in 1958 with Ike Turner's Kings of Rhythm, being billed as Little Ann due to her slender frame. After starting a romantic relationship with Ike Turner, she assumed the stage name Tina Turner in 1960, despite the fact that they weren't married until 1962. The Ike and Tina Turner review became one of the greatest duos in music history. When she filed for divorce in 1976, Tina Turner revealed a history of domestic abuse at the hands of Ike. In the 1980s, she went on to have a tremendously successful solo career and has won 12 Grammy Awards, earning her the nickname the Queen of Rock and Roll. She is now residing in Switzerland and has become a Swiss citizen. Now, back to the show. Okay, I'm back with Kellylee Evans. Take me back. You went down to the States to do the Thelonious Monk competition. Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
Sure, that was quite a it was like a daunting it was a huge experience to have at the beginning of your career.
Yeah.
You know? Like it was held in two locations at the Smithsonian Museum, and then the actual big event was at the Kennedy Center. And so, we were invited to places like the State Department, Colin Powell, and like all these different people in government were there, like high level people in government, high level people in music. You're in the elevator and there's Kurt Elling or Jimmy Scott, or
Oh, wow.
you're
Yeah.
Flora Parima's around the corner. Like it's just like this weird thing, like where there's Wayne Shorter
Oh, my God.
and
Yeah.
all of these giants of jazz, T.S. Monk, and people, you're listening to the stories that they're telling, like one, and the conversations that they're having with one another. And you're just a little fly on the wall, really, and just trying to soak it all in. And I mean, like, I didn't have a huge music education, so a lot of the people I didn't know, a lot of the people I didn't know very much about. I don't know Didn't know much about their music. But you knew that you were someplace where something special could happen, you know.
Hmm.
um it was a it was a hard situation. I It's funny, like, there's parts where, like, I'm very thankful for all of it, because I learned so much about who I was as a person, going into that scenario. And I'm happy I didn't win. I came in second place. Was very stressful. Like, there were a lot of tears, not just from me, but from a lot of people when I didn't win.
Yeah.
That the whole competition, like, is just like it's just challenging. But I'm happy that I didn't win, because I got a chance to come away from it and like really make my own way, and I had made my own CD out of the process, and released it a few months down the line. And it was like, it's one of those things that'll always be a calling card. It helped to kind of set up where I am, or at least where I was at that time in the general landscape of music at that time. But and like, one of the nice things is, like, they just kept calling on me to come back and do things, which was like, has been really great. I was part of Jazz Day in at the UN in Paris with them. Um, did a really wonderful competition, like, performance later on down the line at the Kodak Center, the Kodak Theater, pardon me, in LA. And have just it was part of like a really cool education initiative in Chicago, where we go into the schools and deal and like teach the kids, like, jazz. But like, I would say teach the kids jazz, because like these are jazz musicians already. Like, the kids were pretty amazing already. I don't know. It was a great opportunity. Like, I'm
Yeah.
really thankful. It's funny, like, I haven't thought back on it in a while. Um, but yeah, just your question makes me think back, and I'm really thankful for it. Yeah.
And so that kind of spurred on your career. And I mean, that was shortly after that was when I first met you, actually. And, 2011, the Juno. And I'd love to just hear maybe a little bit about what that whole scene for the Junos is like, because that's something I'll probably never see. I'm a jazz
You never
musician, but
know.
I play small clubs and stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
It
our
doesn't matter.
typical
Like,
audience is 15 people, or whatever, 20 people. But I'd love to hear about the Juno experience.
well, first off, I mean, like, submit, submit a CD, because you really don't know, like, what they're gonna love. Like, it's a jury of your peers,
Yeah, yeah.
and industry people. And if it's a good CD, it's a good CD. Like, doesn't matter who you're playing for. And I've been nominated a few times, and one once, yeah. And I was part of another win, so kind of won twice. And it's like it's weird because like really like what does good even mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, what does a winner mean? Like, you listen to all of the other CDs and they're all great. It's just kind of like what gets decided on that year and what they, so it's kind of bittersweet in the sense like, it's not like you're competing against like in a like, it's like you have like 20 math questions and like you just have to answer the question and there's whoever gets the right answer like wins, or
Yeah.
like we like are gonna run and we all have equal conditions and like we just run and then whoever's the fastest is the fastest. And it's like figure skating or like synchronized swimming, like there's bias, right?
Yeah, of
So
course, the Russian judge is always.
there's always a Russian judge, right? So, so, so yeah, I think it's interesting. Like you come away and you're kind of like, I won, yes, or I lost, oh no. But then it doesn't mean what you did was bad, and it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
really mean what you did was like better, So there's always that, but you feel. I remember it being like one of the happiest moments because it was like this year, like I won the popularity contest this year, right? And then, right? And then like I'm gonna get to like reap the rewards this year. And there are rewards, like there really are. The rewards of like you get to keep that that like little moniker, like beside your name, like Juno Award winner.
Yes.
And it can mean that there's like a whole, it's just like it's just rational. Like if I'm trying to sell tickets and I'm a venue and I can present somebody that's a Juno Award winner or just like a nominee or not even a nominee, I might be able to sell a couple more tickets with the Juno Award winner. So I'm going to book that person and I might pay them a little bit more than I would have paid. So your amount that you can garner goes up a little bit and you might
Hmm.
get a gig or two more in a different place than you might have before. And I mean, like that for a musician, you're looking for that. It's just like how like a restaurant is looking for a good review, or like a Michelin star or two
Yeah.
or three, So it's the kind of things where you're putting in the work and somebody says, okay, we're going to give you this little thing that's going to make it a little bit easier for you to do your work. And that's really all it is.
That's a good perspective, though. I like that perspective.
It's just that's the rational perspective, because otherwise it's like, oh, I'm so much better than someone, and you're
Yeah,
not.
that's true.
You're not. It's just you won the popularity contest this year.
Yeah. So, your career was moving along really nicely, and then 2013 happened, and I know how hard that's been on you, and I know you still feel the effects of that. And we were talking before the interview about because both of us have undergone like adversity, and it defines who you are. And but I asked you if you were comfortable talking about that, and you said you were. So can you let people know 2013? I mean, that was like the Queen said, the annus horribilis.
Yeah, no, I was hit by lightning in my home. I what we call electrocution by conduction. So I was
Hmm.
washing the dishes and lightning struck the metal roof of my home, went through the pipes and went through my body when I touched the sink. And it just it took out the radio, it took out like some of the electronics in our house, and it messed up my body and my brain. And things have never been the same. And it's it's been 7 years and it's still here, like not, my body's still not where I used to be. And I used to feel like I was able to just go 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 and have tons of
Hmm.
energy and like overdo it. And now that's just not the case. And it's but the thing is, you know I should include that in 2015, probably tied into the 2013 issue. I fainted and I hit my head.
Hmm.
And then, so the first injury is well thought of as a brain injury, and then the second one was a brain injury. So the two together, just kind of took me out of commission. The first one though, I wouldn't let it take me out of commission. So I was on tour in a wheelchair, like not able to cut my food or hold my microphone properly, and just still pushing it. And then after the second injury is like no more pushing it. I couldn't even do that. I could hardly get out of bed. So it's been a real lesson, like a life lesson in how to stop overdoing it and how to
Yeah.
take care of myself, because I really did not have that skill set. I didn't know anything about it. Like,
No, well,
yeah,
I'm not sure if you remember this, but I was probably 2016. Because I've had you in at the school a few times, and it was shortly. I would have been less than a year after you had hit your head, and you remember we came back to my house at lunch, and you crashed on the couch and just had to recover for the afternoon. And so you seem to be doing so much better now. And
yeah, it's it is better. It's like, it's funny, like I wasn't able, actually, but I have to say, like, even now, like, I'm still having to take those naps. And I've had to recognize that somebody else's day, like, being able to work 9 to 5. I've tried to push it, but I can't do that. Like, I'm really at 3 hours a day. Like, that's at my max, And after that, like, there's like shooting pains in my head, or I might be slurring near the end of the night. So I really have to kind of like make sure I have my nap, make sure that I look at the time properly and say, okay, this is enough. And then, I'm back out on the road touring, but I really have to have my booking agent like I understand, like, he wants to like make sure that it's a cost effective tour, but if I can't function for like the next week or two after the tour, then that doesn't help me.
yeah,
Like, I don't make enough money in a tour to justify like not being able to function for a month or 2 weeks.
yeah.
It's just not worth it.
But I was, like a lot of people, I was thrilled when you started performing live again. It was
Oh,
just,
thanks.
yeah, it was amazing. And speaking about live performing, so like a lot of us, this whole pandemic has really thrown a wrench into live performance. But
Yeah.
but I was kind of excited to hear that like this episode's coming out on the 27th of July. So I think a few days after that, you're doing a live show, and I'd love for you to tell everyone about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have been asked to be part of the Ottawa Blues Fest NAC production. It's like a drive-in. It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So it's going to be taking place at Zibby, which is like, if you live here in Ottawa, it's a I don't I can't figure out if it's in Gatineau or if it's in Ottawa. It's
Or is
kind
it
of
in
like,
both? Like, yeah,
yeah,
because
I
it's right
don't
in the
really get
middle.
it. Exactly. I was driving and I was like, I can't figure this out. So, anyways, it's at Zibby and Zibby Plaza, and like cars are going to be able to like drive up. I guess they'll all be placed, at a proper socially distance, and we'll be up on a big stage. They're going to be alternating between two stages throughout the evening, and I'm opening the night on the 31st of July.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. People, it's gonna be. I don't know if you did. You ever used to go to Port Elmsley?
Yeah, I've been there a couple times. Yeah.
Me too. So I'm looking forward to it because, like, you pull up and you find the concert on your radio station.
That's right. You tune to a certain station and catch the
Yeah, so
show.
that's what they're gonna do here too.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean it's a clever solution to what we're going through for sure.
yeah, and they're gonna be jumbo screens as well.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
So this looks like a good time for the final segment of the show, the Stueytunes quiz. And
We do.
are
Do
you
you have
ready?
you need I'm sure you have it already, but like, do you have a, what's it called? Like a theme song for Stu?
No, I should put that in the show though. I should get my
You
my
should.
My musical partner, Rick Denis, writes all the music for this show, so I should get him to write some like
You need a little
Jeopardy
jingle.
style. Yeah.
You need a jingle, and then when you get the jingle, because like Stewie Tune sounds like it should have a, a Looney Tunes kind of
Yeah, yeah.
intro, like with the video, like the video, the graphics. So maybe you could like go on Fiverr and get somebody to
Yeah.
like design you like a, you know.
Well, maybe your episode will be the first one that I do that. So you might
Yeah,
you might
you just
have
got a week
like
or two.
circus music going on underneath your answers here. Who
That'd be
knows?
fun. Yeah.
So I know that uh, you know, I'm a huge Beatles fan, but you had mentioned to me that that wasn't as much of an influence for you. But do you have a favorite Beatle? Like when you think about the Beatles?
Yeah, it's so funny because like I'm a child of the '80s, and when I was coming up, like Paul McCartney was doing like he was doing that duet with like with Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah, yeah.
and and yeah, I feel like I more attached to him growing up, and then I learned a lot about John Legend,
Who's also
John
awesome. But
Lennon, John Lennon growing up. Like as I came up, and I loved the song Imagine. And you remember we talked about the monk competition, and that was actually one of the songs. Like I was sleeping, and I woke up with this arrangement for Imagine, and it was just like I like ran to figure out like how to like voice it, and how to write it out for the band. And when I got to Washington, I gave it to them, and they were like, "Okay, this is great. Are you sure you want to perform this?" Because I was going to be performing Imagine like at the Kennedy Center in front of like Colin Powell, and it was like, yeah, and it was such a like imagine no war, imagine no oppression. It's just like everybody was like, "Are you sure you want to sing that song?" So in a way, like the Beatles would be part of my story. That song made a huge impression on the audience, and it, yeah. So, and another thing I love about Paul McCartney is like I think about him often when I write, because I was on a flight one day, and he was, when you're just kind of flicking through like whatever's available, and there was this little mini documentary on him and his songwriting process, and he had this technique of what to do when you are blocked, and he would just be like, don't stay on that like section, just put in a placeholder word, so like I don't know, I'm just like saying this like because this book is on my paint by stickers cats. It's the kids book, but like it'd be like paint by pot liquor cat, so like you would just put in like something and then you keep going, and it was just like it seems so simple now, like, but him saying that was so helpful. I'm like, this great songwriter, with so much experience, like that, what a great thing to do. And he just talked about also kind of getting out of his own way when he was songwriting, just like powering through it as opposed to like getting stuck on these sections. And that's something that's like advice that stuck with me for years. Can't even tell you when I watched that documentary, but it was so helpful. So there's just little ways like that like, the Beatles are part of my life. It's not so much their music, but the things that they said or did, or ways
yeah.
that they were. Yeah.
Well, I remember hearing that he came up with the melody for Yesterday in his sleep, and he was really worried that, oh, is this somebody else's tune or whatever, but he had no lyrics for it, so he called it Scrambled Eggs, and it just
There you
kind of,
go.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next question. These are always hard to answer, because as musicians we see so much music, but do you have a favorite live show that you've ever seen? Like someone you watched and it was like, oh my God, that was
Between two shows.
okay.
Okay. And it's like one of them is like I would not have thought that it was going to be one of my favorites. So the first one was Coldplay's show here in Ottawa. They came, I can't remember what year it was, but it was for X and Y. And everything about the show, like it's just so full of joy, so full of color. The way that I got the tickets, was just like on the day of the show. When we got there, we thought that like we bought the worst tickets possible because like there were these like the opening act was I can't remember the guy's name, but his big amps were like stacked up in front of us, and I was just like, we were on the side, like, and I was like, well, guess we'll just be able to like listen, we can close our eyes. We couldn't see the stage. I was like, we'll just close our eyes and listen to this show. Like, I guess this is the best we could do, getting the tickets the last day.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, when I say the last day, I mean they're in town. Like it was like they just kind of opened up tickets at the last minute, right? And then moments like as soon as the opening band finished, they came and they moved the speakers, and we were like right on the edge of like the walkway that like Chris Martin comes down. So
Oh,
like
wow.
and it's so funny because other people that had those tickets and were sitting through the opening act, they were like, oh, these are crap tickets. So they just left. So we're kind of just sitting there like kind of thinking, well, we're not going to go and steal somebody else's seats. We'll just stay here. And they ended up being the best seats ever.
Oh,
Like
amazing.
raining confetti, big balls of like big balloons that like you could bounce across the stadium, and like singing to us. And at one point, at the end, we were just like so excited about the show, like, and everybody was leaving, and we're like, oh, we'll just stay a bit. And I love shows. Like, I love shows so much that I stay and watch them take down the stage because, like, I think it's so fun to see like all aspects of shows.
Yeah.
I'm just nuts. I'm a musician, but I love every part of it. And the crew came up and gave us the set lists and like broken drumsticks from the show. Like
Awesome.
it was just like, to me, like I can't forget it. I still have chills from just like how awesome that show was, and we were just like singing every word and so happy. So that was one. And then my other favorite show took place like years later. I wasn't even a fan, but I like was brought along with like some friends that were a fan. So we went to Montreal to see Kanye West and Jay-Z's concert.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't really listen to their stuff, so I don't know. Like the level of creativity, like this show was amazing.
Oh, wow.
The graphics, the stage, the music, just like it was so well done. I can't get over how well done that concert was, and the listening to people singing, like they knew all the songs, you know what I mean? And the way that people felt connected in the audience, I've had the good luck to go to a lot of shows, but those two shows are ones that are just like very vivid in my memory, Yeah,
Yeah.
really well done.
So who's the performer that you most wish you could see or wish you could have seen if they've passed on? Is there one that, so
I,
far has escaped you?
I would have loved to see Ella Fitzgerald.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have been pretty awesome. Yeah.
That'd be amazing anywhere,
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah, I would take that.
Yeah, good answer. Okay, who's the underappreciated or unknown performer who you think everyone should know about? Because, that ties into your whole conversation about, not being necessarily better or whatever, because sometimes there are amazing people who just for some reason nobody knows about.
Yeah, there's two male singers that I know of, Canadian male singers that I know of. One's a guy here in Ottawa named Jeff Rogers. He's just got the coolest sound, and he's so talented. He sings, he plays, and he's got this wonderful, wonderful voice. And every time I listen, I'm like, man, like I hope something happens for him. And he's not a little kid, so like, and I don't know like where you'd place him in the in the world of genres and stuff. Like I'm not even quite sure. It's just like he's just got a great voice. So I always think to myself, man. And I remember giving a CD to like an agent in France, hoping that like something would happen for him. But I don't know. Like that's one. And my other one, it's another Canadian male artist. So he used to go by the name Denzel Pinnock, and that's where I met him. And he came to Ottawa, but now his name is Denzel Sinclair. And his voice, I mean, honestly, Tony, like when you get off this, it's like it's like so smooth and it's just like such a beautiful voice. It's kind of like Nat King Cole, but not really, you know?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna
And
check that out.
he's amazing. Those are two singers where I'm like, wow, you know. And I had an opportunity to sing with not like to sing on this. We didn't sing together, but we sang on the same show last year uh, for the Bright Up brothers. I don't know if you know Jeff Bright Up. But they're wonderful songwriters based in New York City and LA, and they're Canadian and they write beautiful music. And I was on a project that they did, and Denzel is on that project as well. And his voice is just killer.
Oh,
Like,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. So those are my two people.
Oh, excellent. And this is my favorite question always. If you're having a dinner party and you can invite any musician or band or whatever, who would you invite? Why?
You know, it's funny. I'll say this. I've met Quincy Jones a couple times from like the Monk competition, but like I never like he it's always really busy. Like there's a lot of people around and he'll talk, but I never understand what he's saying. You know, like it's like late and like I'm just like I didn't quite catch it, you know? So I really wouldn't mind to like be seated beside him someplace and actually get to hear some stories like and like
Yeah,
actually hear them instead of people always say like what did he say? I was like I couldn't really understand him, you know?
because that
Like
guy knows everybody.
he knows everybody. I was just watching this documentary last night called The Black Godfather about a this manager, like I don't really even know what you'd call him. He's like a manager, record label owner, like just this impresario, you know, in the industry. I think he's still alive and he's like like his Quincy Jones is his best friend. So you can kind of see the two of them chatting back and forth. And it was like that was very it was interesting to see just kind of like the reach of these guys. And, you know,
Hmm.
growing up, I always felt like I knew in my heart, like Quincy Jones was gonna like be part of my story somehow. And he was, you know, it wasn't the way that I thought it was gonna be, but it was like, he has been part of my story. Like he was one of the judges for my competition. And like, you know, later on, he gave me a really like helpful letter, you know, so it was like a reference letter. So it's like, he's been part of my experience, but it's just not been like, I thought he was gonna like be a producer for me or one of those things, you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah,
was it. But I would love to sit and listen to like some of these stories. But I guess I got these documentaries. I can use that.
exactly.
I'm good.
Well, Kelly Lee, it's been lovely talking to you today, and it's been really nice to catch up again. I'm glad you're doing okay, and
Thanks.
I'm really grateful that you took the time to interview me for this little show. So thanks so much.
No problem. And when you want me to ask you all the questions so that everybody can find out about you, you let me know.
Anytime. All right, thanks. Take care.
Thank you for everything you do.
And that was my chat with Juno Award winning Kellylee Evans. Kellylee returns to this stage on July 31st as part of the RBC Blues Fest Drive-In series. And just as an aside, Kellylee, if you're listening to this, I hope you noticed that I did insert some circus music below your first part of the Stueytunes quiz, but I couldn't put it on for the whole thing. That would be cruel and unusual punishment for our listeners. As always, the music for today's episode, except for the annoying circus music, was provided by my good friend and musical partner, Rick Denis. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to the show, and thank you for subscribing or rating or reviewing if you've done any of those things. If you know of someone who might enjoy this show, please pass the word along because that really helps. The Stueytunes Show can be found anywhere you listen to your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Or you can just visit the show's website directly at stewietunes.com. You'll find lots of extra information there, including video trailers and show notes. We've got some great interviews coming up in the next few weeks, including one with Toronto-based music journalist Aaron Badgley, Mike McCormick from the Arrogant Worms, and Lucas Hanneman from the Lucas Hanneman Express. Plus, I've got a very special end-of-season interview that I'm in the process of lining up now. So, stay well, be safe, and see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Stueytunes Show. If you're enjoying this show, don't forget to click subscribe.